Hey, Celeste.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good. Cece was on there and both of us left all of a sudden.
Huh.
I don't know.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I know Terry will be joining us before too long.
Okay.
Probably 12 o'clock.
You know, he used to be one of our members for a long time.
Irby?
Yeah, he was our, he's still a member.
Yeah, he's still a member.
Yeah, I think he was the past president.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was very active.
There's some birds or something.
Well, that's a duck in my backyard.
Oh. Yeah. Generally, and it depends on what it is and where it is. Tim White and Parks takes care of most of the graffiti. If it's on any kind of franchise utility infrastructure or drainage projects, then it would come to
send them out to the members that didn't show up, and hopefully they're watching them. I'm hoping some of you have rewatched them and seen a few things. So with that said, let's begin. Everybody can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Be sure you silence your cell phones or put yourself on mute whenever you're not speaking. I'd like to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And the Texas flag. Please follow me and pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, one Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. And the four-way test. Harold, would you lead us in that, please? And please seated.
Okay, please follow me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
is it the truth?
Is it the truth? Second,
is it fair
to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Rotary.
Thank you. All right. And the Rotary prayer, please join me in that. Oh God, giver of all good, we thank you for all our daily gifts, your Rotary friends, and Rotary ways help to serve us through all our days. Amen. Sorry, kind of cut that screen off a little bit. Remind everybody our Hugs is still our charity of the months, and there's a link down there you can see that you can actually make donations to them. And if we get back together here shortly, we'll be trying to collect some funds to make up for our shortcomings. Bob Thomas. Yes.
Fellow Rotarians, I would just make a comment on Hugs Cafe, and that is they served up a delicious Mother's Day breakfast brunch, but we had to pick it up the day before. So Saturday, went over there and they had a tremendous array of choices, and I mean everybody was one price, one package, but it was a very nice quiche of your choosing. For ourselves, it was cheddar cheese and ham and cheese, and then we had a nice fruit. They had 4 kinds of burritos, and also some little pigs in a blanket. So it was and they looked like they had enough to, feed an army, but it was very, very nice. I would also like to introduce some new folks, some new friends. I have my better half with me, Barbara Thomas.
Hello.
And then we also have Kevin McWilliams with us. Kevin, good to have you with us.
Hello, thank you for having us.
And then I would just remind you on this very day, May 15th, but going back to the time frame of 1918. May 15th, 1918, and airmail service was ushered in, and it was a 3-pronged, 3 different locations: New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. But this very date, May 15th, 1918, air mail service was initiated. I would also remind you of this date in history, and that was in May 15th, 1942. There was a bill that passed and ushered in the advent of the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps, the WACs, and it became law, and there was a separate group of ladies that became WACs, and that was the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps. And then also on this very date, May 15th, 1972, Alabama Governor George Wallace was shot by a gentleman by the name of Arthur Bremer in Laurel, Maryland. You may recall he ran 3 times unsuccessfully for President of the United States, but he, in 1962, was the governor of Alabama, and his platform that he ran on was segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. But on this very date, May 15th, 1972, the presidential aspirant George Wallace was shot in Laurel, Michigan by Arthur Bremer. Do we have any other guests that I'm overlooking?
Yeah, actually, Bob, it appears they're some of my surprise guests. So if I can take a few minutes to introduce them to everybody. They're visiting Rotarians from my old club, Lakeland South, which is the Rotary Club in that part of Florida. So let me run down the list real quick. You have Kevin McWilliams. He's the current president of the club. He's a legend in Lakeland because of his wife, who's probably one of the leading vets in the area, and a good friend of mine. You also have Alicia Totten. You got Alicia Totten. Alicia is a longtime friend and a strong Rotarian. She is known for raising a huge amount of money through some Beach Boy concerts that we did in Lakeland a number of years ago for the Children's Park. And I would say she pretty much single-handedly did it, but she won't take credit for it that way. You also have John Scott. John, I can't remember, John, are you one of the founding members of Lakeland South or in the second wave? He's got it on mute. But anyway, John is co-founder of the Lakeland Twilight 5K Run. The Lakeland Twilight 5K Run that has raised probably on average $15,000 to $20,000 a year for the last 16 years for the Rotary Children's Park in downtown Lakeland. And last and certainly least is Jason Holmes. who's a banker in Lakeland, a competitor, past competitor, and a good friend. So I don't think I missed anybody, but glad they could come and be part of it. Glad it's by technology, so y'all can't hear any stories. And guys, I hope y'all enjoy the meeting. Mike, it's back to you.
I actually have to unmute, don't I? Thank you. Yeah, I said thank you for having all those guests here, and maybe we can have a concert sometime in the future. That'd be a great new fundraiser for us. So we got our brag bucks back in. Has anybody got anything they want to brag about?
Well, I have one, and I'll pitch a couple bucks in the hat. This past fall, we had a Drive One for Your School event with the McKinney High School Band. The event is one that is sponsored with Ford Motor Company, and we bring 10 or 12 vehicles to a location, and then they solicit their parents, uncles, grandmas, grandpas to come drive a vehicle of their choosing. And we had a check that Ford Motor Company acknowledges that and can pay $20 per rider per demonstration, and they received a check that needed to be cashed before the 1st of June. So I went over to meet Ken Ringley, and Ken was there, but he was decked out in a face mask and gloves. So he actually came outside, and I passed him the check for their works last fall and their efforts. And I was also in a mask.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else have anything right quick? All right, that said, we'll move on to the district event information. I'm sorry I've cut you part of the way off here by increasing the video. Let me move it over. We do have a district conference going on, and it started Wednesday night the 13th at 7 p.m. Then they're having another part on the 27th and the June 3rd, and they're only an hour apiece. And I'm sure you've got plenty of emails on it, but if you didn't, you can just go to the calendar and click on it, get all the information. And there's several other activities come along, which I've shown you in the past, but get it back out in front of you there. Since Stephanie's here today, I want to be sure to acknowledge that she made it to some of the leading ladies of McKinney and Prosper and an article, and we're really proud of that. And congratulations, Stephanie, along with all your graduate school and busy with your job. That's quite an accomplishment. Announcements. So I'll start the announcements with basically we've got a rough target for a meeting date around May 29th after talking to several members and taking a poll last week. The guest will be the Holocaust 101, or basically information about the Holocaust and the museum. And Frank Walker is working with Rick's. It's all going to be dependent upon what the governor's restrictions are that are probably coming out again next week. And but I can assure you that Rick's will follow all the rules, and we'll make sure that everybody's protected and that we have a safe event. So stay tuned for that information. I want to mention the donations update. We have made a $1,000 contribution to the community food pantry, community food pantry of McKinney, and we will be delivering around 160 to 170 meals to Baylor medical first line personnel and medical center city of McKinney in the next week or so, and so that is taking place. Mark is not able to attend today, but he also wanted me to express the appreciation for all the folks that came out Monday and helped us go through the flags. And we're now set with about 1,300 plus flags to kick off the season. And special thanks to all the people who are out doing the installs and all the various levels of work and recruiting people. Our cutoff for the Memorial Day is today, and we're running around 971 folks right now, flags currently. All right, I believe we had some other announcements coming up. Go
Pete,
ahead. Pete, you have one?
we can't hear you, Pete. And you're not muted.
Pete has one for some, looking for volunteers for the crepe myrtle, where they give the kids, they get them before Mother's Day. They're actually doing that. I believe he sent me an email on the 23rd, and they're looking for about 15 or so volunteers to help distribute those. Maybe if Pete gets off of mute here in a little bit, he can bring that back up to speed.
Mike, could you say one more time how many meals and where those are going to?
Yes, so it's about between 160 and 170 of them, and they're going to the Baylor Scott and White and the Medical Center of McKinney, Medical City of McKinney, next week and the week after that. Frank and Cece have been busy working with those folks and getting them all arranged. And they've negotiated, I almost hate to say it, but such a super deal. We're getting these things for almost, I'll say nothing, from Bill Smith's Cafe, all places. And so we're also not only helping the first line responders, but we're also helping a local business out by buying those meals. So great job, CC and Frank, and Mark's been in doing some of that too. All right, any other announcements? All right, I think that's only ones I had. So,
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next Tuesday, you probably heard of Jeff Riley is the PRO of our district. He tapes programs on a weekly basis on a Jeff Riley show. Next Tuesday, he will be taping a segment on our international projects. He will be taping that in his studio. I'm invited to be there. So it's going to be about 25 minutes program. Once it's taped, that will go to the Rotary clubs and Rotary International, and you will get a copy of it too.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Anything else? All right, let's turn it over to Mr. Sparkman for our today's program. Paul?
Muted.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yep.
We're so fortunate to have Terry Irby with us with Turrentine Jackson Morrow Funeral Home to bring us kind of some updates in the funeral industry and what's happening. And I've known Terry for a long time, and I appreciate her taking the time to come up here and go. You begin, Terry.
All right. Thank y'all for having me today. It's kind of odd. I've not given a presentation like this, so I don't really know where to look. So we'll have a little learning session here with all of us. In a minute, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you some pictures and some things. I've got my husband sitting over here, Butch. And of course, our funeral home is a family business. First off, I would like to say thank you. Thank you, not just for letting me speak here today, but what I would really like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, to all of you that have used us and the people in North Texas that have used our business for years and been friends of ours for years. May the 1st of this year, we celebrated 75 years of the same ownership in business. So my family has owned this business for 75 years this month. And we're so thankful for each and every one of you and all your friendship and loyalty through the years. Our business, what I thought we'd talk about, you wanted to talk about changes in the funeral industry, but not just changes in the funeral industry, but also changes in the funeral industry, specifically in our area in North Texas. Our business began in 1888 in McKinney as the livery stable. And it was the S.J. Massey livery stable, and they dealt in harnesses and vehicles. And so, you know, you would go to the livery stable and you would rent a wagon, AKA hearse, and you would buy a box, AKA coffin. In 1913, they had such a business that they decided it was time to open a funeral home. So they opened the first funeral home in North Texas in 1913, S.J. Massey Funeral Home, and it was where Doug and Linda's ski shop is today. And back in that time, we dealt with primarily, I'm getting feedback, okay there, in that day and time, you know, the area was predominantly Christian, Protestant, and so you dealt with one religion and pretty much one kind of burial, ground burial. And there was no cremation even thought of at that time. So now I'm going to try to share my screen with you and show you some pictures to bring us kind of up to date where we are. And see if let me see, this will stop other screen sharing. Do yes. I hit, this says this will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Yes, yes. Or no?
Say yes.
Somebody know how to work this, Celeste?
Yeah, just say yes.
Say yes, okay.
There you go.
There you go. This is 1913 when the S.J. Massey undertaking came up, and this is my granddad's embalming class. That was him in the bottom right. The funeral home, when we purchased it, is what it looked like there. It's flipping faster than it was going earlier. Some old ambulances through time. I don't know how to stop that. I guess I'll just talk to you a little bit while this flips. That's my granddad, but I didn't know it was going to flip like that. I apologize. It wasn't doing that.
I believe all we're seeing is your picture library, it says.
Yeah.
Okay.
So click on that Massey Funeral Home and then click on slideshow above it.
Hold on. I can't.
That's not right. Celeste, jump in.
Yeah, it's correct.
Click here and click slideshow.
Yes.
Okay, now let me go through it like okay.
Well, it's
everybody seeing it.
We're still seeing your files.
Now, when she shared it, she only shared.
You know what? The reason being, Celeste, she has to click on it in Zoom. Remember?
So click share screen and click on that picture.
When it shows up on your,
yeah.
Not this one. You already got this one up. If that's not where she is, Celeste. What she needs to do is go back to where she does shares. Open this file up, and then go to Zoom and open. That was the problem I had a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Then
Charlie Parks is requesting remote control of your screen.
I'll fix it.
You'll fix it?
okay.
I'll
go
hit
ahead.
approve. There you go,
Mhm.
sister.
Okay, now, you're gonna stop share and then reshare again. But there's two buttons you have to push when you share. The first one is at the bottom of the screen, and there'll be another one that comes up. Don't make a choice. You could make a
This
choice.
one, share.
Okay, now make sure it's sharing everything. Now you got
There
your
we
whole,
go.
now it'll work. Yeah, there you go.
That'll work.
There
Okay,
it is. Yep.
do I need to make that larger?
No, it's good.
It's good. Everybody can see that. Okay.
Looks
Well,
great.
That's one of the changes we've had. Like, right, Zoom meetings have been a big change for us all, hasn't it? So I apologize for my not knowing how to get that started. But okay, this picture here was 1913. That's where Doug and Linda's is today. And that's when the funeral home actually started. This is when my granddad graduated from embalming school, his embalming class in 1938. This is him on the bottom right down there. When we purchased the funeral home, May the 1st of 1945, this is exactly what they purchased right here. This is the corner of Tennessee and Davis Street, and that was the funeral home at the time. The very first Sunday that they moved into town, my grandmother and my grandfather and my daddy joined the First Christian Church in McKinney, and Mabel and Grady Jackson, along with Beverly, joined the First Methodist Church in McKinney. That's where both of our families remain members today. And there they are. We had, this is Beverly and Grady, that's Mabel and Grady. That's my grandmother, Josephine, Edith Keller, which was the secretary. She was A.M. Scott's cousin, and my daddy. So that was May the 1st of 1945 right there. And this is what your modern ambulance equipment looked like at the time. So quite a bit of difference between that and your EMS equipment today. The little sticker there, and why I got that up, ambulance LI2 2601, Turrentine, Jackson, McKinney. Well, we had the ambulance business in town, along with Crouch Moore Funeral Home, another funeral home in town, along with the Horn Harris Crouch or Horn Funeral Home. Well, these little stickers, of course, back then, nobody had cell phones, anything like that. You needed an ambulance. What'd you have? You had pay phones. So we'd get out and we'd go around town, and on everybody's telephone, everybody's pay phone, you put this little sticker so that they knew if they needed an ambulance, they had the number right there for the ambulance. It was kind of funny. Now, my daddy and Doyle were really very, very good friends with Dickie Horn. Even though we were competitors, very, very good friends. So kind of a little funny thing they would do is follow each other around town, pulling each other's sticker off the payphones and putting their sticker over the payphones. That went on for years. So they'd get the first ambulance call. And I hope while we do this that you like a little humor, because every now and then we're going to come across a joke here.
Fantastic. Love it.
All right. Some of y'all may remember Pete Kane. This is my granddad when he was Chamber of Commerce president, giving Pete Kane an award. And this is going over to the other club in town, the Lions Club. And I just found that and thought some of you guys that might know Dean Bennett and Bill Christie might get a kick out of that. Now, McKinney at the time, this was Naomi Snyder's shop, and that's my mother. That's what Dory's Cotton Hearts is today. You had this is where we all went to get our ice to make our ice cream and the best cream sodas in town. And that's Austin Boland standing in the door. And you're gonna say, what's this have to do with the funeral business? Well, it's just the change that we have. This is Duke and Ayers. There's Judy Howell Cox standing there on the right at Howell's Appliance, and Carrie Cox at Cox Chevrolet. And Steffi's, boy, a good Jiffy dog would have been good for lunch today. Then I showed you the funeral home there on the corner. My granddad and Mr. Jackson took an apartment building that was down the street in McKinney and remodeled it, added a chapel onto it, and made this funeral home, which was still at the corner of Tennessee and Davis, but right next door. When I was 5 days old, I was brought home to the funeral home, and we lived upstairs in the funeral home, and the funeral home was downstairs. And so that's where we were for quite some time. This was inside the funeral home. Some of you guys may know some of these people. That's Grady Jackson sitting at the table, Louis Kincaid, and a fellow by the name of Harry Scott, and I'm not sure who the other one is. Then we started upgrading those ambulances. You can see a nice Edsel ambulance there. And then we upgraded them a little bit more. They just, Daddy and Doyle would always try to buy the Chevrolet with the fastest engine. This is about the state we were right here when we sold the ambulance business back to Collin County. And that was in 1969. And we did ambulance calls for a lot of years. Times that we went to homes to get people out of bathtubs that were stuck in bathtubs. We delivered babies. We went to car wrecks and homes, and you know, Daddy even had times when there'd be a gas explosion, he'd go under a house with the firemen to pull the people out. So it was a whole lot different back then than it is today. 1966, this is what Central Expressway looked like between McKinney and Dallas. It's a lot different today. This was the cemetery we bought in 1966. This was a picture from 1966. This is what Ridgeview looked like. I'm sure happy it doesn't look like that today. This is 1969 when we sold the ambulance business to Collin County. This is Daddy and Tinker, and we sold them those ambulances and the ambulance business for $1. That was the best sale of a business we ever made. Then after we had bought Ridgeview, and a few years later, 1973, we built the building out here that we're in today. It's been remodeled some, but we built that building, this building. And of course, Daddy, Doyle, it's not a great picture, but it's an okay picture. We're very instrumental in all of that. So that's why I put that up there. And this is what our building looks like today. It's hard to get a picture of the front of it. So the only one I could get was kind of the one off the website. It's got some stuff over it, some graphics over it, but we've remodeled it. So it's changed through the years to look like that today. Now, talking about what's different in the funeral business, when we added on, we've changed. We were actually the first funeral home in the nation to add a Starbucks into a funeral home. And so we still have our coffee that we do today, and it's not Starbucks anymore because Starbucks came in and changed their model. They took Starbucks out of funeral homes and churches and spas and things like that, but it didn't have anything to do with us particularly, but we still serve the coffee. We sell cemetery markers of all kinds, whether it's the flat bronze or the upright granite. We have a full service flower shop. Here's what, okay, now one of the things that Paul wanted to know about was cremation and what is our cremation percentage and so on and so forth. So here's my first joke. being cremated, my last hope for a hot smoking body. There you go, right there. So please have a little humor with me on that. Our cremation rate today is approximately, it's right at 50%. It's between 40 and 50%. And that depends on which one of our locations you are. We have 11 locations now across North Texas. And so some of our locations, cremation is a little bit heavier. Some of our locations, cremation is a little bit lighter. So it ranges in there. Some of them are a little less than 40%. Some of them are approaching more like 50%. This is a picture of our crematory. This is the viewing suite. It's decorated much like the rest of our building. This is the retort. So this is where the casket is actually slides in, and this is where the cremation takes place. And people always say, well, how do you get it in that little box? This is the processing unit. And so once the body has been through the cremation process, then it's placed in this, the bones are placed in this processor, and that's where you get the fine powder that you get that we all call cremains. We actually pulp the bone and teeth is pulverized. It's our newest cremation model, tank sold separately. There you go. Can you see that little casket, that little graphic there? As far as caskets go, people always ask, you know, well, with cremation, do you have to have a casket? Do you not have to have a casket? We carry a full line of caskets like most funeral homes do. And we have metal caskets, wooden caskets, caskets of all kinds. You would not, or you would not want to cremate a metal casket. Those are for ground burial. But we do have caskets specifically for cremation burial or cremation. And this just shows more of the casket room. In the regular for ground burial or for any service, personalization of caskets has been a big thing, where you can make the corners look different, the head panels in the casket look different, and so on and so forth. This is our cremation showroom. All of the items you see there on the left side are all urns. The caskets you see in the background are caskets made specifically for cremation. These are urns here. Those are vaults to go around caskets in the ground. Okay, why I'm showing you this picture here of the urns is urns come in several sizes. The large urn there would be an urn that would hold a full-sized adult human. But sometimes families want to split the cremains for one reason or another. And so urns come in various sizes. So therefore, we've got a couple of smaller sizes there that would coordinate with the big one. And I didn't get it good, but even a piece of jewelry over there. Well, he never fit in, so this is how he wanted to be remembered. He's got his square casket going into a round hole. So we'll move on to the cemetery here. The cross, which you pass by, when you pass by our McKinney Allen location, going to Dallas, when we built that cross out there, it is still today the largest solid granite cross in the United States. It came out of a quarry up in North Dakota, and still today is the largest solid granite cross in the world. At that point in time, when that was put up here, the religion for the area was Christian. Everybody was Protestant Christian. And so the slogan for the cemetery at the time was "In the shadow of the cross." So this is a project we're not even complete. I took this picture this morning. Around the bottom of the cross, and talking about the cremation rate rising, we have just added these niches around the bottom of the cross, as well as cremation benches. And so this is for burial of cremains. And then if you go inside it, I welcome you all to come out here and walk up here and look around the inside of it. It's all engraved with the stages of the cross. And here you can see it a little better there. It's engraved on the inside. It's really very pretty. This is one that we have over at Ridgeview West. We have a cemetery over in Frisco, Texas. And we have two features over there where you can choose between ground burial and you can choose between niche burial. So this is one of the features at our Frisco location. And here at Ridgeview, this is the butterfly garden for cremation. This is Four Seasons, where we have uprights. That doesn't show well. That's butterfly again. And we have the angel garden for cremation. We also have now, because of the Asian population being quite large in our area, especially in Plano and Richardson, we have a lot of customers from China, Vietnam, Taiwan, so on and so forth. And so we have an Asian garden for them. With the COVID, or the coronavirus, some of the things that we have done is we have added, we're now up to, in our chapel, having 50 people come to a service. We have everybody, we do the social distancing and that sort of thing, but you can have 50 people attend a funeral service. We have been live streaming those services on our Facebook page. As well as we have bought FM transmitters. So if you come to the service and we already have 50 people in the chapel, you're welcome to show your support for the family. You can stay on the parking lot and we will tell you what FM channel to tune into, and you can hear the service. And then you can go with the family to the graveside. So we're offering that, or you can take your whatever device, your laptop or your phone, and you can view the service being streamed live. Next week, we will come up with a new website. It is called celebrationoflife.tv, and all of our services from all of our locations, all of our chapel services will be streamed live on that new site. You'll connect into it on our regular site through the person's obituary page. So that will be coming this next week. As far as graveside services, this is one of the pavilions we have for the graveside type service. If you don't have it right at the graveside, especially now with the COVID, you can have your graveside service in this area outside. Again, with the social distancing, we have purchased, also because of this social distancing, we've purchased loudspeakers so that people at the graveside can hear the service, even if they're not standing up close. And if they wanted to stay in their car, again, we've got those FM transmitters. If you want something a little different, I just pulled this picture out. Every now and then we have a call for a actual horse-drawn hearse, and so I thought you might find that picture a little interesting there. This is one of my favorites. I hope y'all's humor goes like mine. When you're dead, you don't know that you're dead. It's difficult only for the others. It's the same when you're stupid. So I hope y'all think that's funny.
It is.
Okay, good. So, and why I bring that up, it's difficult only for the others, is really you ought to do what you can to make it not so difficult on the others. And you can do that by, if you'll go to our website, the main page on tjmfuneral.com and scroll down, this would be the screen that you see. And over on the left is the advanced planning part. Now, I do want to point something out before we move to the next screen. Down here on the right, it says spring arrangements. We have a lot of people who want to buy the silk flowers that go out into our cemeteries, that go on the base, and they maybe can't make it out here right now, or they live someplace in the United States. So this is a place where they can go to, click in, and see what's available as far as the silk flowers that go out, and that's for the cemeteries around. We'll take it out and put it on the grave space out in the cemetery. But if you go to this, back to advanced planning, because we want to make it easier on everybody, if you'll go to that part and it says learn more and download our guide. And you'll come to this, which says pre-plan your funeral, 6 easy steps to create peace of mind. So you can print that, you can print it off, and you can, it takes you right through the steps of leaving instructions for folks on what you might want for your wishes, which would certainly help your family at that time. And I highly suggest everybody do that. And we're back to the start there. So I guess what I can do is stop sharing, and it's question time. Or do you want me to leave it there? Celeste, tell me, you want me to hit stop share? I can't hear you, baby.
Sorry, just leave it there. And if anybody has questions, they can put them in the chat. And I'll tell you what they are. So we have one.
This is Sharon Scott. I have a question. You referenced in one of the photos a man named Harry Scott. My father is named Harry Scott Jr. and his father was Harry Scott Sr., both of Denison, Texas. The Harry Scott in the photo, do you know who that was?
Did they ever live at Salina?
No, they did not live. I've lived in Salina, but no, they never lived in Salina.
Okay, that was the last I knew where he lived, was over at Salina, I thought.
Okay.
I'll ask Doyle.
Do you know who his wife was?
I can look it up and tell you. I'll tell you. I'll have to call you later, but I can get that for you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, because I was just wondering if that's my father or my grandfather. If that happened
to be your dad or granddad, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Do you have a picture of the what you use for cremation? The box?
The box? I didn't put one here, but I could certainly send that out to you. It basically looks like a cardboard box, if that is what you're talking about, the alternative container. It's the basic alternative container, but there's probably a selection of, 25 different ones that you can choose from the basic cardboard up to ones that are presentable for viewing, because some people don't want just cremation. We have a lot of services that are still a full traditional funeral service, and then people do cremation afterwards, or people still do viewing visitation first and have a viewing of the body. So they'll use a casket that's presentable for viewing. Then we'll do a cremation. We may follow it with a memorial service, and we may not. But I would say more than not, quite a few of the cremation services, they do still have some sort of a casket because of they're doing a viewing visitation or some type of service.
We have
It just
another
may not be a
question.
public service. Mhm.
We have another question. It says, is it about 50% funerals are still cremated today?
That's it. It ranges between 40 and 50% depending on the location where we are. We have some locations that are under 40% cremation and some locations that are closer to 50%.
Wow. Well, we're waiting on the next question. I just appreciate you bringing this presentation to us today, and I certainly appreciate what timeliness it is. That we wouldn't even thought about some of these things 6 months ago with the changes in technology funerals.
Well, that's what, you're exactly right. I've had to learn about Zoom. We've had to learn about live streaming services. We've had to learn about FM transmission. We've had to learn about social distancing. We've all had a lot to learn in the last 6 months, haven't we?
We have another question in the chat. Are cremations less expensive?
They can be, but sometimes they're not. It depends on what the family selects.
Okay.
One of the things to remember about cremation is that even though the body's cremated, I think people don't realize, and why I showed you all those pictures of the cemetery, is you still need a burial place. You still need a final resting place. The top of your daughter's closet in the extra bedroom is not a good place for cremains. And excuse that. I had a fellow one time, he came in here, and he came in here with a shopping bag. He set it up on the counter. He had 2 little kids with him, and he said, do y'all have a place for, I need to buy a spot to bury some cremains? And we said, yes, sir, we do. And he said, well, these are my grandparents. He said, my mother passed away. I had a service for her. I was cleaning out her house, and I found my grandparents' cremains up in the top of the closet. And he said, I can't exactly throw them in the trash, but he said, I don't know what to do with them. He says, I feel like I need to be respectful and find a burial place for them. And so we did sell him a burial place, but I thought, you know, that's something the grandparents should have taken care of. He had 2 little kids. He needed to be spending his money on his little kids, not on his grandparents' burial space, to be quite honest with you. So it's just something to keep in mind. Even though you are cremated, figure out what you're going to do with those cremains and how you're going to memorialize that.
We have 2 more questions in the chat. When someone dies and is going to be buried, can a cremated spouse be placed in the casket so they're buried together? And the second question is, what kind of demographics do you see for cremation, if any?
Yes, they can. The cremated remains can be placed in the casket. However, depending upon the cemetery you choose, what you may have purchased when you purchase your cemetery space, some cemeteries sell the actual property, and some cemeteries sell rights of interment. So if you are in a place where you purchase cemetery and they are simply selling cemetery property and the property, then 2 in the space, so long as the cemetery doesn't have any regulations against it, would be fine. If you are using a cemetery where they are selling rights of interment, you would have to have 2 rights of interment to bury both of those individuals, even though the cremains are in another casket. Does everybody follow me on that? Because you're buried, it's like an easement. It's like you're purchasing an easement. You're purchasing a right to bury a set of human remains. And what about tell me the demographics question again.
What kind of demographics do you see, if any, for cremation?
Demographics for cremation?
Like ethnicity or?
No, it's across the board. You know, little of this, little. Farming families used to never, never do cremation. Now I see that a little bit, you know, as far as, but there's really no, it's just a preference. Mhm.
Last question is, are there any laws for spreading of cremains?
In some places there are. Some places, especially in California, in other places on beaches and some very famous places that you may go to visit, that a lot of people like to go when we used to could vacation, when we used to could go on vacation, right?
Kyle Field is illegal.
Yeah, you can't at Kyle Field. You can't at a lot of different places, and you kind of have to think about it. If your favorite beach, you go there, if everybody's dumping cremains out, I don't want to run my toes through it. So be respectful of others.
All right, any more questions? Well, Terry, thank you very much for sharing that. It was very informative, and I think we all learned a lot from that.
Hey, thank you, Paul, for having us today. Butch, you want to add anything? Is there anything?
You're a better speaker than me.
Well, I'll try to be better at my Zoom presentation next time, folks. Like I say, we're all new at it, aren't we? But thank y'all so very much for having us today.
Okay.
And again, thank you for 75 years of business in McKinney, Texas. Thank you.
Right, you can quit sharing now, and I'll close down the meeting. I want to remind folks that we'll be sending out meeting notices next week, and let you know about where we're going from there and what our plans are. But like I say, tentatively, we're thinking about the 29th, depending on what the situation is. So, does anybody have anything else before we adjourn the meeting?
Thank you, Mike.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That was a good job.